And we are live. Good morning, traders. Good morning, people. Boy, what a week it's been. It's been interesting to observe what's going on social media, both in the way of so many traders who are transparent are showing blowing accounts left and right and wrecking themselves. And then a lot of traders are also quiet. When you don't see a bunch of wins coming in on Twitter, for example, being posted around 10 a.m., 11 a.m. New York time, you know everybody's had a rough day. So for one, if you have had a rough week, you're not the only one. I'm seeing a lot of people struggling this week. But I think that this is where I've kind of shined a bit because I'm really good at capital preservation now. And that's, I guess for me, it was a lesson that I learned pretty quickly. I see other people blow accounts left and right again and again, and I don't understand to some extent. Well, I understand, but they haven't been able to get their capital preservation skill in place, which is paramount. Like, why do all of this work to just give it back? And then do the work again and give it back, and do the work again and give it back. And I don't understand that cycle because it's just wasting your time. Anyways, we have low probability conditions this week, and navigating that's important. And one of the things I have is, like, for example, I go through this checklist. I don't know if you can see it. Like, I have a physical checklist. Print it out and put it on my morning routine for my desk. And I look for all of these things, and I kind of gauge the probability of the day. Like, for example, we've already taken previous day low. So that tells me there's a possibility of an inside day, or a sideways day. So if you want that checklist for all the things to look for as to when to go light or stay out of the market, I've got a link below. It's in my free trading community. And I got some other good stuff, checklists just like this to make your life easy as a newer trader. So anyways, check that out. Like, I've taken 2 losses this week, low risk, so I'm hardly down on my account. And I'm proud of that because everybody's getting wrecked this week. So anyways, that aside, let's kind of move on to getting started here. I guess, what am I looking for? Well, a couple of things. Today's Wednesday of Jackson Hole. It's the last day I'm going to be trading. It's the last day I'm willing to put up probably risk. I'm still going in low risk and light, and I still am looking for perfect. So if it's questionable, I'm not going to take it. Or hopefully not going to take it. You always can, say these things and then do something different in the moment. But yeah, we can zoom out on the chart a little bit. It's 4 minutes until open. So a couple of things. I'm actually going to zoom out a little bit. I think what's important is looking at maybe the bigger picture. And like even this is another example. Previous day expanded. So that's one clue to suggest that today might not be as volatile of a day. Possible, not guaranteed. Like, you can have multiple days in a row that do run, but even look at this. Like, here's 2 examples where we see a big expansion followed by a big expansion. Okay, so that didn't happen that day. But we can also see a big expansion and not so big of an expansion. We can see an expansion move here, and then this candle did not expand. Expansion, no expansion. So it's like none of this is guaranteed, but it gives you some context as to like what maybe to expect. And when you add it all up, you can kind of paint a picture. So I see this big expansion. I see we have some equal, this is on the daily chart, so higher time frame. We have this big expansion. Yesterday, equal lows taken, tapped down into this fair value gap, and previous day low is taken. And I see this volume imbalance between these 2 candles right here. So I'm kind of eyeballing that. This dug in super deep below, but I am expecting some means of pushback up into this zone before continuation down. Now, how much does it do it today versus later in the week? I'm not sure. And then obviously order flow is just bearish. Like, look at on the 4-hour chart, it's bearish order flow. The candles are going down. They're black in my case. I don't use red candles, obviously. The only thing on the 4-hour chart is this gap has been inverted, slightly bullish indication with this volume balance above. And so it's kind of making me feel a little bit like it might pop up before continuation down, is kind of what I'm expecting. So maybe I'd be interested in a short setup at this moment. I don't have any long opportunities. Ooh, excuse me, I need to drink my coffee. Let's go back to the lower time frame chart because its price is moving. So we are 2 minutes prior to the open, and price just made inverted this inversion right here. So my model says this is a breaker and inversion right there. But for me, it doesn't meet all of my criteria. Looking around, 1 minute till open. You know, kind of like this right here. Here's a breaker and an inversion, and it just petered out and kind of pretty much failed. So price is consolidating pre 930. I like that. It's kind of this not quite a sideways consolidation, a little bit more of a flag kind of thing. But I want to see that pre 930. We don't want to see price distributing right before 930. All right, we got the 930 open. So we're above 830 opening price. We're at 930. Midnight opening is always important for me, and it's down below, way down there. But we do have a regular trading hour gap above. So I'm still wanting, what I would want to see is a little bit of a push up. Now I was questioning if this is the reversal for the day right here at 7:05. NQ did this yesterday. Had a massive push down, no opportunity to get in on a breaker. Let's see what NQ and ES are doing, or YM. Opposites, look at that. So YM is pushing bullishly up. ES is consolidating sideways, more or less. A little bit like NQ. We'll just kind of keep an eye on them a little bit. That breaker did not confirm. This became a BPR, balanced price range. And really price closed below here. Right here, forming a breaker, bearish breaker. So what are we gonna do? At the moment, nothing. Look at that delivery. So here ES did a stop hunt. NQ did not. And that's where it was. Look at that, interesting. So here's this 1 hour fair value gap. So that was the move right there. So I kind of missed it right there. I was expecting higher on NQ, not ES. First presented fair value gap. So that's the first gap that we get after 930. It's significant. It's significant in that price loves to continue to reference it throughout the day. So this is a case where I was right but wrong at the same time. I was expecting NQ to pop up. I have it drawn over here. I was expecting NQ to pop up somewhere, probably into this new day opening gap, regular trading hour gap, and then distribute for liquidity down here. And this is I've been noticing this a little bit more. ES did it, and that's fine. I'm not going to catch them all. Now the 1 hour is a little bit sideways. Let's take a look at that. Oh, we're over here. So the 1 hour, we can see candles are just kind of taking highs and lows and moving by and large sideways. 15-minute kind of floated up and then it's going sideways. So these are also a couple indications to me when you start seeing either the 5, the 15, or the 1 hour going sideways, to be cautious with your accounts. And recently the 4 hour was going sideways like all week long. And this is, yeah, a flag, right? This is actually a bull flag that broke bearishly, right? Go figure. If you get the joke, you get the joke. And so this whole week has been dicey. And look at that, that's why. So here, looking around, trying to figure out what we got going on. So here's some liquidity's been taken. I'm not bullish at this point right here. I don't like it. I'd be into a short, but I missed it. So I'm being cautious too. These assets are not correlated. That's also not making me very confident in price at the moment. YM's off doing its own thing. At least 2 of them are. I like that. So starting to get a little bit of a barcode pattern. When the candlesticks are printing like this and they start to look like a horizontal barcode, you know, price is not wanting to distribute. So excuse me, I'm gonna finish my coffee. So plan the trade and trade the plan. I had planned to short it somewhere up in here, and ES did the liquidity grab that I was looking for, and I didn't see it at the time. However, this is such a massive candle. I don't think that I would have shorted it anyway. I wouldn't have had an entry. It's just too big. So I don't know, just gonna kind of wait and see. It's possible it could still come up into this zone and I could short it there again. So I'm kind of checking that possibility out, as if this is the Judas and then another Judas and then a smart money reversal up in here. The other possibility is that 7 o'clock performed the smart money reversal. There's SMT into higher time frame level, taking a London high. So see how this first presented fair value gap just got ran through a whole bunch? You don't want to see that. That's kind of an indication to me that this price action is not going to be clean one way or another, whether it stays in some kind of like opening range for the next half hour, or whether it's kind of this high resistance run, which a high resistance run looks like this. So low resistance is when price just pretty much just does this, like a nice fall, right? Or that, don't ignore that last little one, but where a high resistance run is where price kind of does one of these things more, and that takes forever to go anywhere. Makes a barcode-ish pattern. And you can kind of see low resistance distribution for these first 3 candles, starting to be a little more high resistance. So we just kind of like use these as little clues, and you start adding all this up in your head and painting a picture of what you think is going to happen, at least from a probability standpoint. And really, ES had a beautiful breaker, like beautiful. Well, not beautiful, because I would have liked to have seen more candles. It was much cleaner than this, is what I'm trying to say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles is a little shallow for a breaker. I want to see a breaker being made out of a handful of candles, kind of like this one right here. So here's this leg down, and even this is a lower time frame breaker, right? This here. So one thing I'm noticing here too is like this. So here's this fair value gap that was created. In instances, and I see it maybe half the time, it's something I don't do, but have thought about maybe back testing and adding in. But something like this where I set a limit order, and within the next couple of candles, if I get a retest when there's this huge volatile moves, get a retest, set a limit order, and in this case, you know, I would have front run I wouldn't have known there's a fair value gap at first, so I probably would have set a limit somewhere in here on top of one of these breakers right there. And let's say I would have done that, you know, 2 to 1 right there. But that's not something I've back tested a ton. But it's on my list of things to do. Because when you know, like, there's all these variations of a model, and that's probably one of the things I struggled with at first, was when I adopted a model. You know, it's easy to see it when you see it, wherever it is, you know, like, here's a breaker right here. But what happens when it looks a little different, you know? Like this right here, here's a breaker, here's a breaker, here's a breaker. All right, so target acquired, midnight open. I was not in a position for that. ES did the stop hunt I was looking for. So I'm just going to note that right here. So one of the things I tend to do is, for when I record these, you know, sessions, obviously, which I don't go back and watch them as much as I should because it takes a while. But here, I make these notes like this just for myself, and I come back later on in the day and I review them. They're like little quick notes of why I did or didn't do something. Because this is a pattern that keeps happening to me, where ES does the stop hunt, forms the SMT, and I miss the trade. And that's exactly what happened here today. I missed the trade. And I probably would have had a stop loss up here somewhere. And I even have a printout of this happening recently, where, I mean, this is exactly what I'm looking for, where one asset does a stop hunt and the other forms this SMT. And I guess for me, in my head, I'm always expecting NQ to perform that stop hunt. And I almost forget that ES can do it, or even YM, but mostly ES I look for, and miss a trade. So here is another instance of that happening, and I got to keep that in mind. And so I just study these things, and I write them down, make little notes. I put them in my trading journal, and then I print them out until they're kind of burned into my memory, and I've kind of adopted that thing. So, yeah, right here. Look at that. See, there's a printout, ES and NQ doing this exact thing, and I still haven't etched it into my memory. I didn't review it this morning. All right, so target below ultimately is these equal lows down in here. I don't have it marked on this chart, it's marked on another chart. So that was the ultimate target that I had. Right there, this sell side liquidity pair of equal lows on the higher time frame. We can see this high resistance run, kind of a hybrid where, you know, price is not going sideways, it's moving downwards, but it's resisting the downward movement, creating this zebra pattern, barcode pattern. But nonetheless, it's delivering. So YM is just doing its own thing. ES, heading for London low. In the case of NQ, already took London low. So this is where I could anticipate a long. However, that's probably against my bias. I say probably because you can trade both ways, especially when you go for low-hanging fruit. So let's just clean this up here a little bit. And you know, not every day do you get a trade. Like, I think that's the other thing that traders struggle with, especially lower time frame traders, is like, it's okay to miss a trade. You're not gonna see them all. And sometimes you start seeing patterns enough that you start catching them, like this up here. And I can start adding that into my, you know, repertoire of what my mind, what's imprinted in my mind and what I'm looking for. It's not quite yet, because in my case, you know, when I've studied my model, I look for NQ to do the stop hunt and then create a breaker and distribute. So, you know, looking for this kind of thing. I'm not looking for this exactly. Like, there's no stop hunt here. My brain wasn't, when this candle started dumping, like on a deep subconscious level, my brain's like, well, there's no stop hunt. And so I don't care. And over here, right there, stop hunt on ES. So my brain needs to be trained to look for setups like this too. And that's more advanced, obviously, because like even my mentor didn't always catch those. So look at this nice expansion lower. Wow, beautiful. And this is one of those instances where, you know, if you're in a short position, let's say like the one I had thought about, and I always target 2R and something I want to get better at, would have been a little more like, I don't know, call it this. 2R would have been these right about there. Cool, that's good enough. Is, you know, we usually as traders set our take profit right there. There we go. And then, whoop, right, order filled, and then price just keeps dumping. One of the things I want to start doing is having my take profit level, but pushing it further down in these instances. And then at this point, trail my stop. So if this is my stop loss up here, once price comes to my TP, I go break even for sure. I keep pushing my stop up like below this. So for example, if I had to push my stop up below this order block, even not expecting price to come up into this order block, and just start trailing my stop loss, you know? So right now, maybe my stop loss would be right here at this fair value gap. Or I could have just been content with a 3R trade. This is something I'm gonna start doing a little bit more. I'm not messing around with it this week, because this is not the week to be messing around. This is the week to be cautious and conservative. Which I kind of got sidetracked on that. I was initially scoping out the idea of a long, and I just got sidetracked. So there's no chance of a breaker. Let's see here, what else do we got? So what we have is this distribution leg lower, right? Like this. There's not really any swing highs in here. So what I'm going to anticipate, and it's possible like these inversions, you know, price comes down to here and comes up above these inversions or somewhere, wherever it goes. And then now it can create a breaker. And you see a breaker, why I'm so interested in breakers, is the market can't reverse without a breaker. Without this lower high to get flipped into a support level, the market can't reverse. And this is the thumbprint of the market. This is a market maker buy or sell model. In this case, it's a buy model. But we don't see that, do we? Candles are just dumping lower. And up here, so we can examine on NQ, it happened right here. This is the breaker where you can see price made a higher high, then a lower low to retest this and change direction. This is the thumbprint of the market. Every single time price reverses, this will be here. It can't not be there. And when you start understanding that price is fractal, it all starts to make a whole lot more sense. So at this point, I'm expecting continuation for the next macro. So smart money reversal, continuation. Oh shoot, you're all on this chart over there. Dang, I'm sorry. I gave that whole breaker spiel. Dang, that's a bummer. I left you on the other chart. Well, what I can just say, that's a total bummer. That was a good little tidbit too. Basically just that there's no way that this can't reverse, right? Like this. This price leg needs to create this. And so for me, I know I can't expect anything until this happens because this is the breaker right there. And you need price to form this short-term leg before it can flip it in reverse. That's the thumbprint of the market that I was just talking about when y'all were staring at the other chart, which I'm terribly sorry about that. And that can be seen right here where, I clicked a bunch of stuff. My keyboard has started to get a little weird and I ordered a new one and it hasn't come yet. So here's this bearish breaker. Price isn't doing anything I can trade, so might as well show. But created this higher high, this lower low. So this is the market structure shift, right? Comes back in here. It can retest it. It can do a bunch up in here. It's just consolidating before the 9:30 open. Retests the breaker and distributes. That's the thumbprint of the market. You won't find a reversal without that. And that's the fractal nature of the market. And once you start understanding that, that's when it all becomes so much more clear. Well, I'm bummed and I'm happy. You know, I'm bummed that I called it right. I'm unhappy that I missed it. Part of me feels like I should almost, it's like, it's a tough call because I don't want too many charts, but also I totally missed it because ES did the stop hunt into this level right here. Oops. I am not with it today. Right there, see how ES took these equal highs in this fair value gap? That's exactly what I wanted NQ to do. MNQ. But the name of the game is capital preservation this week. That's what this week is about with Jackson Hole. Gosh, look at this distribution. This is nutty. I love it. So let me clean this up here just a little bit, zoom out a little bit. So what now? You know, price is just free falling. So we don't need the regular trading hours gap. We don't need first presented for value gap. This target has been acquired. The session liquidity pretty much doesn't even matter at this point. We zoom out. I'm going to screenshot this so I can document this later. I always document. So the reason why I do this over here, I plan the trade and I try to trade the plan. Part of it is I'm measuring my accuracy when it comes to bias and drawn liquidity. And so in this case, I drew the arrow for what I believe to be the most likely scenario. And I pretty much was right, with the exception of what I've been talking about where ES took the liquidity up in there. So I want to document those kind of things. You know, I'm perfecting my craft. Like if you can't tell, I care more about perfecting my craft than I do about getting in a trade, which doesn't compute, I don't think, for most people. Trading can be too much of a, how to say nicely, trading can just be gambling. But for me, I look at it a lot more like a craft that I want to perfect. Because the gambler won't win. And so it's both my understanding and realization through my own experience is that when we treat trading like gambling is when we win and lose really quickly. And that I'm not in it for that. I'm in it for the long run. So the 4 hour took these equal lows in this fair value gap, we'll call it that. That's fine enough. There's some trend line liquidity right down in here. And then this major swing on the sell side. So a swing is just a bottom or a top, right? Swing is this low point where price reverses. That's what I showed you earlier with that market maker buy and sell model. So here's a market maker sell model on the 1 minute chart right in here. And here's a market maker buy model on the 1 minute chart right in there. And these are high probability targets. And here on the 4 hour chart, little tiny fair value gap, right? See it down here? They matter. You can see how even on this day, let me make sure you can see that. Yeah, you can. Where is it? Okay, yeah, y'all can see it. Where this little tiny gap did all that work, pushing price all the way up. Look at that. Look at that expansion from that little tiny fair value gap. They matter. So now I've even lost us. Where are we? So now I've got a little bit more of context on the 4 hour. So really in my head, there's only shorts still, even though this liquidity was taken. This equal lows, equal highs, excuse me, equal lows. And if you watched from the beginning, like you're watching the recording, this is where I was saying like we add up all of the possibilities and create probabilistic scenarios in our heads where I wasn't expecting huge expansion today at all. I said it was possible, but I wasn't expecting it because we can kind of look at the previous day, wherever it is, and that expansion might indicate more of a compression day. Not saying we can't get expansions like these 2 days, right? Expansion, expansion. That's absolutely possible. But we're weighing the probabilities. The probability is after an expansion candle, a compression candle. And if anyone cares to determine, wants an easy way to determine high probability and low probability conditions, which this is all about capital preservation, right? That's what I was saying earlier. Traders are wrecking themselves this week and I'm not. And that's because I can know when to put risk on and when to put risk off, when to back off. And a lot of that comes from just recognizing high and low probability conditions for the day, which I use these checklists that just tell me things like if previous day low or high was taken, or what to look for. Did Asia expand or did Asia, like right here, here's pink box is Asia. Did Asia expand or did Asia accumulate? Well, 400 ticks, more or less, we considered it just accumulated down, right? Kind of one of these things. This whole thing's just a bit of an accumulation range. That's a really messy drawing, but if I look at this and we go, I can see that this is just an accumulation range. That tells me I might be interested in price today. But anyways, that checklist is in my Discord. You can have it for free, along with some other checklists. I'm putting everything I do into checklists and just easy to implement and use tools. It's all free in my community. Links obviously below or in the profile. So what do we got now? Am I missing anything? So this is interesting. So here's an inversion and a lower time frame breaker. Well, right now it's a fair value gap. And if we went down into the 15-second, this, here's a breaker. So we can anticipate a breaker before it even forms with seeing these legs. And in my case, I would use this on the 1 minute personally. But then the question becomes, is this a zone where I'm interested in doing business, right? So that's part of my old school, right? I print everything out. My trading standard operating procedure. And I guess I could pull up screenshots. It's just funner. I already have them on my desk. And that's super important to me, is I can just reference these things on my desk really quickly. So like my first item on my standard operating procedure sheet, the light makes it blown out. I should just pull up a screenshot, shouldn't I? Is where is it? I'll pull it up. Key level for doing business. So I do not need to think until we're at a key level for doing business. So right now I'm just talking. There's a breaker here. But is this a key level for doing business? So let's determine that. It's a 4-hour fair value gap. We've taken a bunch of liquidity. We've taken equal lows. So it's possible, yeah, and I can move on to the next step. Time. Is it time to do business? It is the 950 macro. So I basically just go through the checklist, and that's how I can easily not have to think a ton. Yo, Chris Postal. I don't know how long ago you chatted, but hey, brother. You traded London high to London low. Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Did you take this one up here? The 7 o'clock SMR. If that was it, I had that noted this morning earlier on the the live. I was anticipating that to be the SMR. And if you did, that's a beautiful trade. I missed the continuation here. I didn't see that ES had done the stop hunt, and so I wasn't even paying attention at this candle. I was just kind of like, yeah, it's nothing I can do here. And I missed the short. But good job, brother, man. You are killing it. So the idea is you wait for a stop hunt of London. Oh yeah, you got 720. Oh man, beautiful trade. Let's see, roughly. I'm assuming you're on like the 2 or 3 minute. Beautiful. So you got probably 3R plus out of that trade. Beauty. So something like this here. Excuse me, people. But basically a stop hunt of the London high. Wait for that thumbprint of the market. And this is an early entry technique, basically. So you did the 2-minute order block is what he did probably. But before this breaker forms, we're anticipating this breaker to form right here, like I was talking about earlier. And oh man, nice. So you held that beautifully. We can anticipate a breaker forming through a few other mechanisms, and that's exactly what Chris did. And he keeps banging out these London to London trades, but the idea is you wait for a sweep of London high, and then you take it all the way to London low, and then inversely, right? And that was 7 o'clock in the morning New York time, which is early. I know Chris is Eastern time, I think, or Central? I think you're Central. I'm just not David Goggins enough to be up this early. So still just watching price, not a whole lot to do. You know, this inversion never even confirmed, which would be the first sign for me of potential reversal coming in. This is not a very strong leg. However, yeah, 6:20 a.m. That's palatable. That would be 5:20 a.m. for me, and I guess I could probably do it. Just man, I don't fall asleep very easy, so it's hard for me to go to bed earlier than say 10 o'clock. And because then it tends to put me into these cycles of of not being able to fall asleep at all. If I go to bed at 9, I can do it for a little while, and then I start not being able to sleep. And so it's like this careful balance of I can't go to sleep any earlier than about 9:30. Even last night, I went to bed at 9:30, and it threw me off. So anyways, I know I'm just being a bitch, but that's my reason. And it's like valid to look at because London to London's been quite nice lately. So now we see this actual swing on the 1 minute looking like a more likely breaker. We see these gaps forming, so we can kind of start anticipating the idea of a breaker. I don't know if I want to long it. Let's look over here. I'm not sure I want to long this. This to me, this is the move. I'm not going to expect probably a reversal, probably until more like lunchtime. So I'm looking more for continuation than anything. Yeah, sleep cycles are crazy in how we work. Yeah, I've been doing all kinds of stuff. I even went and did like a sleep study at a sleep lab recently, where like they put me in a room, they like hooked me up to all. They had what was it, 28 sensors like hooked to me. I had all this wiring harness running down my arms and like they down my chest, and they put these like big Velcro straps around my chest to keep everything in place. And it was so nutty because they had a camera on me, and the guy was like, yeah, you know, if you need anything, I couldn't get out of the bed, and the guy was like, if you need anything, just, you know, wave at the camera, it's a motion sensor and I'll come help you. And I'm lying there and I'm not falling asleep, and I listened to like outer space like documentaries about space, and I'm listening and listening and I'm listening, I'm taking in all this info, and I'm like, I'm not falling asleep. And I wave at the guy and I'm like, yeah, it's like midnight, I gotta whiz. And I wave at him and he goes, how's it going? I go, you know, it's all right, it's okay, I'm just kind of waiting to fall asleep. And he goes, no, you've been asleep. And I'm like, you're kidding me, I would have bet you my house that I wasn't asleep. And he's like, yeah, no, like their brain sensor showed my brain went to sleep and I didn't even know it. And so anyways, I don't know where I'm going with any of that other than just waiting for price. But they determined I had none of the 90 sleep disorders they were checking. So then, yeah, it kind of left me going, well, I don't know why I don't sleep as good as I'm getting better at it. Want to speak positively of it. I've been sleeping better. But it's so important. It's so like sleep is the foundation of everything. And I actually got one of these Whoops recently, like a Whoop band, and it measures like your sleep cycles, your REM, your deep, time in bed, sleep efficiency. That's the one thing I'm really struggling to improve, and I've been working on it for this entire year. Is like, how do you wake up and feel energized? Or for me, like energized and have enough energy to just like crush the day. I don't know. I'm not that anymore. I used to be. So what then? Price is coming into some interesting zones. So this is where looking at like my key levels, but I don't think it's time for a long. But what do I know? So let's take a look here. Price coming down into this consequent encroachment, this fair value gap. That's super nice, and I would expect some kind of response there. So kind of anticipating a breaker potentially here, but I would probably anticipate time-wise, and I could be wrong. Like it could totally, with this kind of distribution, it could give 2R. I'm gonna move my chart a little bit. Like there is no balancing out of this price, and it could happen a little later, but it's the kind of thing where this could form the breaker and inversion, and you get 2R out of it before it reverses. So the AM trend is bearish, and you know, we do in the 10 o'clock hour get a retracement sometimes. So the moment there's been nothing to get in on, and I've been noticing this distribution has been more common lately, where like there is no stop hunts in this price leg. So price didn't do anything like this where it did kind of a continuation pattern. And this is what I look for a continuation play. I look for this stop hunt right there, and not getting many of those lately. But in terms of timing, curious because the smart money reversal was early, if we could also get another reversal earlier too. We're at a zone of interest. This 4-hour fair value gap, however, with this liquidity below, it makes me feel like it wants to come for this right here. That maybe I shouldn't expect the consequent encroachment to hold and rather want to see price come down into here before any kind of retracement. So here on the 1 hour, yeah, I think you can see that, yeah. This huge gap. So what I would anticipate is lunch to come back up into here, clear out some of this liquidity, and potentially continue further. But I think it's too early for that. So mark that out. So that's where I'm interested. It's getting there a little early in my opinion. So 5 minutes, kind of not helpful at this point. 15 minutes, same. Prices just move so much on the 1 hour. A little more like, can see clearly. The 4 hours really giving me the clearest picture right now. And let's also take a look at, the weekly, just examining that. The price moves so much that I needed to come back to it. And it's gone. There we go. So here's NQ, ES, and YM. So see all these relative equal lows above this volume imbalance? In my opinion, price is coming here this week. Or this week or next. And look at that candle off the, wow. So here is the whole week, Monday, Tuesday, so Wednesday. Is it going to be Wednesday low of the week? I don't know. Daily chart didn't do what I was hoping, which was, yeah, on the daily it didn't. On the 15-minute it did, but the daily it didn't. It didn't come back up here and retest this imbalance at all. Leaving it for later. So price here is hit the average daily range right here. Right there, average daily range. Here's 138 AR. Here's the average daily range. So quite the expansion. So if I'm gonna plan the trade and trade the plan, what does that look like? So we'll have a big bullish SMT forming in this zone. Is what my hope is. I hope that this comes down, sweeps that low. And if it sweeps this low, then there's an SMT. YM is pretty ugly right now on the 4 hour. This is also 2.5 standard deviations of the Asia range. So here, this pink box is the Asia range. These dotted lines, first standard, second, third standard. So this is 2.5. We often see responses at the 2.5 standard deviation of the Asia range. But I'm not stoked until this liquidity is taken from me. Which my thought is, so this huge distribution, we have to keep in mind that it could also consolidate after this for a while, stop hunt and continue. And we don't want to get caught up in this. I don't want to get caught up in this. Some traders might. Some traders are range traders. I feel like at this time, if it inverts this stop hunts, I'm still interested in a short for that. I don't think it's time, and I don't think it's the level for the reversal. But that's a discount short, a shortened discount. I don't really care for, but it's possible. What was I gonna say? And we're coming in to a new macro. We are in a new macro, 1020. So. So 11:50. Start of the lunch macro, manage AM trades and look to counter the AM trend. You know, so that's still not out till even here. My only question is the smart money reversal came early today. Came right here at 7 o'clock. Although let me take a look at if I look at it from the perspective of ES. On ES, the smart money reversal did come at 9:30. So really, I'm anticipating sideways movement for a little while. We can see it's kind of doing that. I want to see it take this low before I'd be interested in any kind of long. I also want to see it come up in here before I'd be interested in shorting. So I think at this point, I'm gonna shut it down. Come back a little bit later, probably, possibly. I'm not even gonna say probably. I'm gonna say possibly. Today's low risk, and actually, now that I say that, it's Jackson Hole symposium this week, which means Wednesday AM is kind of the cutoff time for trades more likely. So I don't know. I might come back and see if order flow looks good, but really after about 11 a.m. this morning, is going to be more low probability conditions. So I'm keeping that in mind, and will likely, I don't know what I'll likely do actually, but it kind of depends on what price looks like. But I just have it in my head that this is possibly the end of my trading week, and I'm okay with that. I'm totally cool with that. I don't need to get in any trades. This week was all about capital preservation, while everyone else was getting wrecked. So, and I accomplished that. So I'm pretty stoked that I preserved capital this week. So yeah, I'm gonna shut it down, and I'll be back. I'll be back not tomorrow or Friday. I'm gonna take those days off, and I'll put up some videos or shorts or something, but I won't